Boop. Happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, November the 18th, 2020, and today's daily Bible readings come to us from Psalm 83, 1 through 4, 9 through 10, 17 through 18, and then Esther 7, 1 through 10, Matthew 24, 45 through 51, or you could have read Psalm 9, verses 1 through 14, Job 16, 1 through 21, and then Matthew 24, 45 through 21 again, 51 again. And I'm going to look at Esther, and we're going to talk about this history that Haman and Mordecai had. Haman was the king's kind of, I guess you could say, ultra high muckety muck. He was, kind of in charge of everything below the king. And Mordecai was a guy, worked at the palace and was in a position, to hear things and see things and do things. I'm not going to tell you the whole story of the book of Esther because you can go read that yourself, and you should. It's a short book. It's a good read. It's kind of dramatic. But Haman and Mordecai really are an important part in this, and they're an important part in the passage today because Haman really was, I guess we'd call him a narcissist now. Really arrogant, really full of himself. And he felt like everybody else should really think about him the way that he thought about himself. And it just drove him crazy when other people really just didn't act like he was everything. Matter of fact, he got mad at Mordecai. That's really why he kind of hates Mordecai, is because Mordecai wouldn't bow to him. It's like, he'd walk by him, he'd like, bow to my son. And Mordecai is like, no, I don't bow to you. And so he just kind of hated Mordecai from the get-go. What made it even worse is that Mordecai, because the kind of guy he was and the way he was in a position, he was in a position to overhear somebody talking about wanting to kill the king. And so he went and he let the people in power know and let it be known so that the king could be saved. And the king was very thankful about that, and it got written down. But the king kind of forgot about it. And one day he was, going over the minutes, from the last meeting, and remembered that Mordecai had done him this great service. And so he decided he wanted to do something great. Well, about that time, Haman comes walking in, and Haman is, like I said, kind of full of himself. And the king says, Haman, I need your guidance. And Haman's like, well, great. And that's what I'm here for. And he says, what would you do for a guy that saved your life? That you really wanted to thank. What should the king do for a person like that? Well, Haman, in his arrogance, thinks it's all about him. And so he starts devising this great thing. He's like, well, you should give this guy one of your best sets of robes and put him on your finest horse and have, somebody, one of the people in power beneath you, lead him through the streets, blowing trumpets and drawing attention to him and saying, this is, how the king treats people who, do him big favors and stuff. And the king sits there and he says, yeah, that's great. I want you to do that for Mordecai. And Haman is disgusted, and he has to do it. He can't not do it because the king ordered him to. So this guy he hates, the guy who wouldn't bow to him, now Mordecai has to lift him up on a horse and give him all sorts of props and honors, and lead him through the streets blowing trumpets, kind of thing. And if you're a narcissist like Haman, oh man, that's just gotta ruin your day. And so Haman devises this plot because he doesn't just want to get back at Mordecai. He wants to get back. He wants to hurt Mordecai really bad. He wants to get at everybody that Mordecai loved. Basically, he just wants to wipe Mordecai off the face of the earth and all of his people, which are the Jewish people. And so he hatches this plot. And he even goes to the point of building a gallows in his backyard, right? It's not just enough that he gets the king. Well, and the other thing is he tricks the king into signing this death warrant for all the Jewish people in his realm, and then builds gallows in his backyard because he's going to have a barbecue and hang Haman on these gallows. So, hey, nice gallows. Want to hang? But word gets around. People like this, partly because they're so full of themselves, they don't know when to shut up. The word gets around, and it gets back to Mordecai, and he finds out about this. And unbeknownst to Haman, Mordecai's niece is Jewish, and she's the queen, right? That's the rest of the story you need to read. And so Esther to the rescue, and she devises this plot. She's good at it too. And over the course, because she knows his weakness, she knows he likes to be lifted up. He likes to have his ego stroked and be told what a fancy boy he is and all that thing. Just told he's the smartest and the bestest. And so she has this dinner party and only invites the king and Haman, and that just strokes Haman's ego as much as he wants, kind of. But in the process of this, when she finally gets him comfortable, she lays it out on the line that the king has been duped into signing this death warrant, not just about against these people whom he doesn't really know, but against her, his wife. And of course, it doesn't go well. The king is really disgusted. It all comes out in the end. And the great part is this guy who his name is Harbona, and he's just a eunuch. If you don't know what a eunuch is, I'll let you, well, don't Google that. That's a bad idea. But ask me later. So Harbona, this eunuch who works, and his job is kind of like to be the butler for the queen. He he knows what's been going on too, and he goes, "Hey, king, it just so happens that Haman built a gallows in his backyard to hang Mordecai on. Maybe you should let him use it." And so, well, that's what happens. Haman it's kind of like, "Hey, nice gallows, want to hang?" Part deux, and he gets hung on his own gallows. And that's the problem with having this kind of hatred and this kind of, I guess, narcissism in your life. That when you make plans and you hatch plans based on that kind of hatred, you may just end up hanging on your own gallows. So that's the lesson from Esther today, and that's the DBR for today. Hope you get outside, have a good day, have a good evening, and we'll be back tomorrow. Boop.